What's going on, guys? It's Chris Palmstad here with Keller Williams Realty Professional Partners, bringing a quick little video to you guys from here in my garage. I'm 100% working from home now, so it's nice that I'm able to get out and kind of do some projects between appointments and things like that. And while I was out here doing some reorganizing of our bikes, because my wife had an issue the other day getting them out, so I want to make it easier for her and the kids next time they want to go for a bike ride. My mind, being the way my mind is, I started thinking about, oh man, I remember when this garage was full of boxes and we were reorganizing everything because we wanted to sell a couple years ago. And then I went even further and was like, oh man, that'd be a really good video to talk to sellers about this market and how it's affecting them, because I always talk to buyers about it. So here we are making a video. Luckily the tripod is back, so I'm not having to be shaky and all over the place making a video for you guys. So let's dive into this, and let's dive into the topic of sellers and how this market is affecting you, and how to make sure that you're hiring the right professional and realtor to represent you through this process that is educated on the contract, the current market, and how to protect you moving forward, because there's a lot of weird things going on with offers right now because there's such a high demand for homes. In fact, the other day I just saw a video where there was a group of like 30 plus people lined up outside of an open house just to see one home in one neighborhood on the weekend, because that's what it is right now. That's what the demand is. So beyond the initial stuff of people coming to look at your house and getting offers and things like that, there's a lot that goes into what we have to be aware of, not only as realtors representing the seller, but also you as a seller, and you need to understand and be educated on when these offers are presented to you. And it could be anywhere from 5 offers to 20 offers or plus. I mean, I've heard as many as 70 offers being written on one home at one point in time. And this is a lot to go through as an individual and as a seller, because of the fact that there's so much in the contract that can be missed or skipped over, or verbiage that can not be looked at or understood correctly, that it is important to make sure you have a realtor that's in your corner that is going to understand the nuances of what's written to protect you. So some things that are going on right now from buyers they're putting in offers to try and boost their offer to look better than the other offers so that you pick it. One of the first things that I'm seeing happen a lot is inspections being waived. For those of you that don't know, during the first 10 days that a home is under contract, the buyer has what's called their due diligence period. During this time, the buyer has the ability to find out everything they possibly can about the property and make a determination on if they still want to move forward with purchasing the property or not. During this time, if they cancel using what's called the BINSR, the Buyer Inspection Notice Seller's Response Form, this allows them to cancel, keep their earnest money, and move on. What's happening a lot right now is buyers are actually waiving this process. They're basically saying, we're not going to do an inspection, we're good to go, we'll just take the house as it sits. Which means that they're now moving on to the next contingency, which would be the appraisal contingency, and then dives into loan contingency, which those are the things that protect the buyer's earnest money. But essentially what's happening at that point is they're basically saying, you don't have to do anything to the house, we're good to go, we'll move on. Now, a different way that this could be written, which is actually how I write it, is it can be written as, we are accepting the house as is, but we're still going to exercise a due diligence period. What this means is the buyer essentially saying, we'll take the house as is, but we're still going to inspect. We're still going to do our fact finding on the home. This doesn't 100% mean that the buyer is completely, alleviating you from having to fix anything. The buyer still has a right to come to you and say, hey, we found out that there's some issues with the roof. Are you willing to fix these problems? Hey, we found out the water heater's leaking. Can you fix this issue? They still have a right to not only inspect, but also ask you for repairs. Now, you as a seller, at any point in time on either side of the spectrum, can say, no, we're not doing anything. You wanted the house as is, take it as is, or don't take it at all. And at that point in time, the buyer then has a decision to make on, are they going to accept your response of not fixing things or fixing a few things, or are they going to cancel and move on? Once you get beyond that, the next thing that I'm seeing is getting waived a lot is the appraisal contingency. And the appraisal contingency is important because of the fact that this is what's put in place, that if the home doesn't appraise, the buyer now has an option to either ask you to renegotiate or cancel because it doesn't appraise. So when buyers are canceling the appraisal contingency, they're basically saying, hey, if the house doesn't appraise, we'll pay the difference. Because understand, the bank will only lend as much as the home appraises for. Let's just say that your home's worth $300,000, it appraises for $300,000, but the buyer offers you $330,000. If they waive this appraisal contingency, they have to make up that difference of $30,000. Now here's the kicker. Federally backed loan, FHA, VA loans, they are not allowed to actually waive the appraisal contingency. There's no form, there's nothing a buyer can sign that waives the appraisal contingency. The federally backed loans only allow for the loan amount to be what the home appraises for. So if you get an offer from a VA buyer or an FHA buyer, which is not a bad thing. But if you do by chance get an offer from one of them, what happens in this situation is there's a clause that the buyer, the seller, and both agents sign saying that if it doesn't appraise, that the home has to be sold at appraised value. And what's being missed in a lot of these conversations is the fact that people don't realize or understand that this clause exists. So when you accept this offer and you're thinking that the buyer's gonna pay the difference, then you get to the end game and the lender's like, no, you can't pay the difference. It has to be sold for what it appraised at. You're stuck. There's nothing you can do at that point. Conventional loans, cash loans, obviously that is an option. So with that said, that's a couple things that I'm seeing currently in this market that could affect you as a seller. If you guys have more questions or want more information from me on how I can help you and represent you in this process of selling your home, please reach out, give me a call, shoot me a text, 623-693-5667. You can email me at cbalmaceda@kw.com or comment here on this video and let's have a conversation here. Appreciate you guys watching the video. We'll talk to you again soon.